Ryan here from Mr. Rao's Gaming Rants and Reviews. Thank you for stopping by and watching me. I'm going to review tonight Cuphead, the fast-rolling dice game published by the OP. Thank you to the OP for providing this as a review copy game. It's been much appreciated. We've been having a little bit of fun with the game. So the purpose of tonight's video is to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of how the game is played, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts towards the end of what I thought about and what my family thought about this game. And if you like this particular video, I'll invite you to comment, like, and subscribe to this channel and this video, and provide me some honest feedback, because I know I'm just getting going here, and hopefully you really enjoy the content that I'm producing. So let's go to the table here and figure out how do we play and what's Cuphead fast rolling dice game all about. So here we got Cuphead, the fast rolling dice game. So let's take a look at this thing from the outside in. It comes in actually a pretty hefty little box here. From what I can tell here is that it's probably on par with about like a Stone Age, if you kind of know that reference. A Stone Age size box where it's kind of it's quite deep. If I kind of put up here, it is quite deep in the in stature. So let's take a look at what's coming inside. Now this is not an unboxing. I've already opened this up and I've played through the game with my family quite a number of times already. So everything's already punched and sorted and everything like that. So this is not an official unboxing or whatnot. You do get a nice rule book, and it's a nice, very clear rule book that does explain exactly how to play. Very detailed diagrams and whatnot. It's a very, very good rule book. From what I've been able to say, and on the back here is kind of a nice little score sheet, because as you do play through the game, you can actually score yourself on how well you've done on a particular scenario, and then it also tells you how to, if you want to reset the game back to its original state, kind of like how you kind of do that, and that's all summarized on the back of the rule book, which is kind of nice. And yeah, it is a kind of if you want to kind of say a campaign style adjacent type of game. It does come with these save sheets that, well, we haven't actually used any of these save sheets. It's quite easy to kind of track your progress throughout the game. Unless if you really want to keep track of your scores across the various different boss levels that you can encounter and everything. Like if you're really trying to get into try to get those A ranges across all the boss levels, that's you can have that, but they do give you quite a number of them. We haven't actually had to use any of them yet. We can easily track those somewhere else. And then you can kind of see here we got some of the boards here. Like here they give you a nice little board to lay out your cards and kind of give you some ideas. Like you get a draw pile, discard pile, kind of like where the boss sits, and then the boss's health meter and the wallop cards can sit where they kind of organizes your table. And then you got the little boss health dial here. It comes pre-assembled, and it kind of runs over 1 through 20 type of thing. Spins really nicely. And again, that comes pre-assembled. You don't have to assemble that like some games make you do. So, and then here's and then you get the character boards. And they are actually fairly sizable. They really went above and beyond, making them in the nice thick cardboard, very clear. So we've got the main character of the day, Cuphead. Again, it gives you some flavor text on what he does, and then of course he comes with an ability, the pea shooter and mega blast. So kind of what the dice do if you have the finger icon. And yeah, so you get Cuphead, you get his brother Mugman, you get Elder Kettle, and of course the ever so famous Miss Chalice. You also get her. Now, and across them you can see that they all have their little ability pea shooters, and actually they're all the same. across all of them, they all start off with the exact same ability, which is okay because this is a family style game. But the way that the game is meant to play is that you're going to be able to upgrade these throughout the game, and that's where the kind of like the asymmetry is going to come into play, where you'll be able to buy better weapons, and then you might buy a different weapon than say another player at the table, and then you folks can shoot at the bosses a little bit differently. But you all start off the exact same right off the bat, and then you can upgrade a little bit later on. So I'll just put those off to the side here. And then yes, so you can see inside the well here, you got all of the different boss decks that are on here. And I see this one is upside down. That's kind of bugging my little OCD here. And yeah, so then what you end up doing is that you actually end up playing. You start off with boss deck number 1, and then you can proceed after you've beaten that one. Then you can proceed to boss deck number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, and 8, and all that straight. It's pretty straightforward. And then there are these secret envelopes that they're not hidden. They're quite prominent. You can find them, and they kind of just give you a little bit some extra abilities if you're able to complete what they say on them. So like this one says, open this envelope if all players can complete a battle with 3 parry tokens each. Whoops, I got to miss that. Or this one. This is the only one that we've actually been able to open, and it says, open this envelope if all players complete a battle with full health. We were actually able to do that once, and so we were actually able to open up what's inside this envelope, and then there's 2 more. So there's 4 of them in total. Kind of nice, neat little challenges that you can try to unlock. And then of course then we've got my little baggie here of the hit points and time tokens and parry tokens, the coin tokens, and then of course what the big draw feature of this game is the big bag of custom dice. Okay, each player gets 6 dice, and they are custom. All sides are different. 6 different symbols on each of the dice, on all of them. And yes, each player gets 6. You get 5 regular dice, and then you get the special black EX dice, which if the purpose of the EX dice is if you're able to roll this finger icon, depending on your weapon that you've got selected, your finger icon, finger shooter, will do something different for every different weapon. So I'll just put those aside. I'll put those in here. Okay, and then you got a couple decks of cards here. You've got your wallop cards, which are cards that you can earn throughout different boss scenarios, and they provide you with a bunch of different effects. Most common effect is that usually it'll provide you with a side of the dice that you can cash the card in for that particular symbol. There's a whole bunch of those. Then every now and then some of them have some text on it, like this one just says if you discard this one, all the players can gain 1 hit point back. If you ever earn a time token, you can discard a time token. There's another one. Choose a player, gain a parry token. Assign a card to a card. Assign this to a card slot before rolling to add 1 damage on a shoot action on this space, so you can actually deal some extra damage if that card comes into play. We've actually haven't had to use this particular card just yet, and so yeah. And then there's all the different things. So they're really quite handy. They can really come in useful. And if you actually don't use your wall, if you earn a wallop card and you don't use it, you actually get extra points at the end of a scenario. So that's actually kind of nice. Okay, and then what you might see here is we have. Now I said I've played through the game with my son and my wife, and everything like that. We've already unlocked some of these pork rind cards. These pork rind shop cards come at the end of most scenarios or all scenarios, and they are just like those unlockables. They're your extra weapons. They are charms that you can equip to help you, just become a little bit more asymmetric or give you some extra abilities to help you beat the bosses. So I'm not going to show those. I'll show those in a little bit later in the video, and I'll kind of mark that with a spoiler because it is a campaign style. It is a campaign style-ish game. And I've got mine divided into 2 baggies. This baggie is all the stuff that we've actually spent our coins on. And this is just everything that we've unlocked in the game so far. And I can tell you that we have played and beaten all of the boss decks at this point. And so we have actually unlocked everything that there is in the game other than these special envelopes. And these are the weapons and charms that we have bought, and this big stack is the stuff that we have not bought. So we could actually play through the game again and try to, buy some other things as well. I'm going to take a look at a boss deck for us. They do come in these really, really nice deck boxes. They're very well put together, and you can see it says USAopoly Superior Quality. Okay, manufactured for your utmost enjoyment, and this is boss deck 1. I can show you this one because this will be the first one that everybody kind of comes to see or will play through. And it's important to note that the very top card of everything is the pack order, so that if you do want to reset this particular deck, this is the order in which the cards go in, which is really quite nice. And then they also have the pork rind Emporium cards at the bottom, so you know which one of these unlocked cards actually go back into this deck if you want to reset it right back to, square one when you first bought the game. Okay, and then as you open it up, and then sometimes on the back here there'll be some extra rules that this particular boss has to go through. This is the first boss, so it has no extra special rules. And then you go right through the first boss is the root pack, so you will play through the potato. And the potato's got 13 cards in his particular phase. And most bosses, and I'm going to say most, not all, but most bosses will have 3 phases to them that you actually have to beat in order to play through to beat the scenario. Okay. So the potato here of the root pack is phase 1, and then you can see all of his cards there. And then it'll tell you there will be Mr. Dice here, the Dice King guy. King Dice, that's what his name is. He'll tell you to stop. So I have to beat this phase first, and if I beat this phase, then I get to reveal King Dice. I get to flip his card over, and now I'll reveal phase 2. Again, not too much spoiler here because most people will play through this scenario actually really quite quickly and probably quite easily. So after phase 1 here of the root pack, then you'll get the Crying Onion. And of course, if you've played the video game, you probably know this particular level here. And then there's the Crying Onion. He's got 9 cards in his phase. And then again, it'll ask you to stop. And then after you've beaten the onion stage, you can reveal King Dice, and then all of a sudden you got the carrot. Then you got the big evil carrot. And he's got 19 cards in his phase. And then once you got all 3 of those, it'll tell you to stop. And of course, if you play the video game, you'll know that the carrot is the last stage. You also feel that there's not too many cards left after this particular King Dice, because if I beat the carrot, and that's the final phase, after this, if that is the final phase, I should be able to reveal this, and that it is a knockout. And that's kind of that's the general gist of what a boss deck is going to consist of. And again, a little bit later in this video, excuse me, a little bit later in this video, I'll show you some of the other bosses that you can possibly play through. So that's everything that's coming inside this game. It's actually everything is awesome, very good quality. It's a very nice insert. It's a very nice big box. As you can see, there's a lot of cards that you're going to actually end up playing. So I do appreciate the insert that is provided in this particular game, and I really do like these big, heavy, chunky cardboard player boards. And of course, these player boards are going to help you organize your dice placements as you play through the game. Okay, so I'm going to get everything all ready and set up, and I'm going to actually teach us kind of how a round of the Dice Head Fast Playing Dice game works. So bear with me, and I'm just going to set everything up. Okay, so I am set up here currently for a solo run through of Cuphead, the fast rolling dice game. So what we're going to end up doing here is that we are Cuphead here, and we've got our 6 custom dice. And what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to be trying to attack the boss deck one phase at a time. And each phase is going to consist of a certain number of attack cards. So in the very first boss deck of the root pack, here we see that the first phase is the big angry potato. And he's got a couple things on him. So first off, there is, based on the player count, he starts with a certain number of hit points. So in a solo game, let me see if I can focus in. In a solo game, it says he starts with 6 health, and then in a 2-player game, 8 health, 10 health in a 3-player game, and 12 health in a 4-player game. So he's a little bit tougher to beat, but there is a lot more players beating up on him with more players going on. And it also says here that he has 13 cards in this particular phase. And if he runs through all 13 of his cards before we defeat him, we are going to get a time token. And a time token is worth negative points at the end of the boss deck. And that comes into play if you want to calculate your score and see how well you did against the best boss. And so if you want as many points as possible to get the best score as possible. So you don't want these time tokens. You don't want the phase to end before you beat up on the particular bad of that phase. And so to set up the phase, at the very beginning, all the players are going to start with 3 health, and then you take the phase card. So here's the 13 cards that are associated with him, and you give him a quick little little shuffle, and then you place them down here, and then each round of the phase is you're going to draw 3 cards off the top of this deck. And so here's card number 1, card number 2, and card number 3. And so these correspond to 3 attacks that the boss is actually going to perform against you. Now, your goal is that you want to defend and attack the boss at the same time. Now, if I want to defend, let's just say this card here. If I want to defend this, it means I have to roll and place a single foot icon on my player board. Now you can see that your player board is actually on the bottom here is divided into 4 different regions. And so this first region corresponds with the first attack. So I need to, in my rolling here, is if I rolled a single foot icon, I can now associate it to defend that attack by putting it into that slot. Now I can't just assign dice willy-nilly across this board here. You have to fill up the board left to right. And as soon as you assign a dice to a particular slot, you cannot assign a dice to the left of it. You can only ever just keep assigning dice to the right. So, and some attacks are a little bit more complicated to defend. This one says it needs 2 dice. You need 2 single foot icons in order to defend this particular attack. And then this one says I need a double foot and a single foot to defend. Okay, well that's defending. Now, how do I actually, attack the dice or attack the big bad? Well, on any card that only has a single defense dice needed, so I put my single foot down, I can also assign a finger gun shooting icon in order to attack the boss. And in the very beginning, my player board, my weapon here, the pea shooter, says I deal 1 damage for every shoot action that I perform. So I can assign my single foot and my finger gun dice. So now when it comes to resolving the cards at the end of the round, I have successfully defended, and only if you successfully defend can you actually perform an attack action. So in this case, I would deal 1 damage to the boss. Now, let's just say at the end of the round, and I end up successfully defending 2 attacks, but then my time runs out, and I was only ever just able to get another single foot on there, and I was not able to actually successfully defend this card, well, then I would actually lose 1 hit point for not being able to defend that particular attack. And of course, if I lose all of my hit points, I have perished. I did not complete the boss. I did not defeat the boss, and I have to start over from square one if I wish to keep continuing. Okay, there's a lot going on there. There's a couple other things here, is that when you assign your attack with the black dice, this is referred to as your EX, your experience dice, and it also has a finger gun icon on it. Ooh, it's not in there. And your weapons here, if you assign a finger gun shooting action with your EX dice, it actually does, in the beginning here, it does 2 damage. So they're actually really quite helpful if you're able to deal this. Now, of course, the way the cards are going to come out is really quite random. Some rounds are going to be very hard to defend, like this is semi-difficult to defend, and there's not going to be a lot of attacking opportunities. Or the cards could come out that there would be lots of single icons to defend, and therefore giving you plenty of attacking opportunities. But on that note too, is if you do assign a shooting action, you have to know that that is 1 less dice that you have to use to try to roll these icons. And let me tell you, rolling a particular icon at a particular time is actually very difficult, because each side of one of these dice is different. You only have a 1 in 6 chance of rolling a specific icon on one specific dice at any given time. So if you're looking for one particular icon, it actually ends up being a lot harder than you think. Now, a particular scenario can be adjusted in difficulty. They do have an official Cuphead fast rolling dice app that you can use on your phones. And I've got since I'm using my phone currently to record this particular video, I've got it on my iPad. And let me tell you what, the iPad version isn't very friendly. As you can see, it doesn't even fill the whole screen. And there's been a little bit of formatting error where it says select how many, I'll just pull this up here, where it says select how many players. It's actually been blocked off, so I can't actually select how many players I'm playing on the iPad, but I can select which boss I'm playing. And then you have 3 levels of difficulty. The easiest difficulty is 20 seconds for the round, which I'm gonna tell you what, 20 seconds isn't. Wait, what is this? I can make it a little bit bigger by tapping that little icon, but it still doesn't unlock the ability that I can't change how many players there are here. So that's one knock. Now, you can also change the difficulty here. That you can see, you can set it around for 15 seconds, and you can set it around for 10 seconds. And I have played under each of these. 10 seconds goes by very fast. You better be very efficient in your dice rolling and very lucky in order to get that. 20 seconds is a very good starting point. If you're even playing with younger kids, you can even actually just use a phone timer yourself. And we started off with playing 30 seconds, 40 seconds, and then we worked our way towards the 20-second mark. And we have tried 10 seconds, and boy, oh boy, it was frustrating because of how fast that timer actually went by. So to kind of give you a feeling of what's going on in the Cuphead fast rolling dice game, let's take a look at, here, I'm going to take these cards here and I'm going to give them a good shuffle. Oh, and there's also one other thing that could possibly happen. You notice that there's these wall-up cards, and every now and then some phases may contain a wall-up. And if a wall-up shows up, let's just say it showed up in those first few. So when I go to lay out my cards, okay, there's the double foot wall-up. So normally you would lay out 3 cards for a scenario, but if you draw a wall-up card, there's actually going to be 4 cards for that particular round. Now, wall-ups allow you to, if you actually perform the wall-up, you get to draw a wall-up card. You do not have to do the wall-up. You do not have to. You can actually skip over that part and just go straight to defending and attacking on the other one. But if you do decide to assign a diamond symbol and get a wallop card, you just simply get to draw the wallop. And there's a little thing that we missed is that when you draw the wallop, you can start using it right away. Like you can use it for when you start resolving the other cards. So let's just say I did draw a single foot icon wallop card, and I was not able to successfully defend this because I was missing that single foot. Well, I can discard that wallop card right away as that particular dice. There are some other cards in here that when you do perform a successful defense on them, will grant you parry tokens right here. They generally are associated with having the hand, and it says right below, it says gain 1 parry token. So if I was successfully defend this card, I get one of these hand parry tokens. And parry tokens are actually very handy because if you're playing with multiple players, and I have a parry token, and the person that I'm playing with is, say, my son Regan, he loses all of his hit points. Well, if I have a parry token, I can spend it and I can bring him back to life with 1 hit point, and he can continue playing. When you're playing solo, what you can do is in between phases, you can discard parry tokens, and I believe it is you can discard 2 parry tokens to regain 1 hit point if you've managed to collect them. All right, and if you perish, like if you lose all of your hit points, and you have 3 parry tokens, you can come back with 1 hit point left, and that's only if you're playing solo. All right, so let's have an idea of how how frantic this actually ends up being. I'm going to give these a quick shuffle here. Put these down. And let's reveal what we're going to have to do. So we got the double foot, a single foot, and a single foot. So you see here, this would be a really good opportunity if I was able to deal some damage to the boss. I should probably take it because I'm probably going to be able to get in at least a couple hits for this one. So I'm going to set it. I got boss number 1. I'm going to do 20 seconds here. And it does give you a little bit of, like, I'm going to turn up the volume here because it does give you a little Cuphead music. If you're familiar with the video game, you kind of understand what how the music goes and the voice narration at the very beginning of the battle. So let's take a look at what's going to happen here.
This match will get red hot.
Okay, I'm looking for a double foot. I don't have it. Oh no, I lost my dice. Single foot. Oh no, I don't want to assign it yet. Where's my double foot? Where's my double foot? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. Okay. Okay, so that was very, very, very frantic. As you see, I didn't get my first double foot until my very last roll. When the timer runs out, so that's how fast 20 seconds goes. And after that, whatever dice are left, you can't re-roll these. But after the timer goes, any dice that you have rolled, you can assign. So I would get very, very lucky here, as I would be able to assign a single foot and a single foot. So I would be able to successfully defend this card, and this card, but I am not dealing any attacks to this phase. So then these 3 cards would now get discarded. They go to the discard pile, and I would draw 3 new cards. And oh boy, again, I am not going to be able to attack him because I have to assign 2 dice per attack to defend. And man, I had a hard time enough rolling double feet in that last one. I don't even know if I would be able to do it this time. Okay, so that's essentially what you're going to do. You do these 20-second rounds over and over and over again until phase 1 is complete, and then you'll go into phase 2, and then you'll go into phase 3, all the while trying to keep your hit points and not perish, because by the time you get to the end of the scenario, you've completed it. As long as you are still alive by the end of that last card is drawn, you've completed the scenario. Even if you didn't deal the final KO blow to the card, you're probably not going to get the best score because, well, talking about scoring, what you do get is You get 10 points per hit point you have left over. You get 5 points for every parry token you have left over. And if you've gained any wall-up cards, you would get 10 points per wall-up card that you have left over. And you'll also get some bonus points if you've set the timer not to 20. If you set the timer, now let me just get this one straight because I haven't done this one. If you set the timer to 15 seconds, you get an extra 10 points. And if you set the timer to 10 seconds, you get an extra 20 points to your score. And then on the back here, you can see there's the scoring chart of however many points you scored, determines the letter. And if you're using the app, you can actually hit the KO button here, and it can calculate your score as well as how many hit points you have left over, how many parry tokens, how many wall-up cards did you get, time tokens used, final grade. So in that case, I would have got, with those stats, I would have got a B+. And then you can share that with your social medias if you dare to. So if you follow me on Twitter, I have been posting some of my scores for some of the boss fights that we have. We have gotten one A+ that I was very, very impressed with that we ended up getting. All the dice rolls were just happening to go our way on those. And that's how you play Cuphead, the fast-rolling dice game. So join me back at the table, and I'll give you kind of like some of my final thoughts, and I'll also give you some of my final thoughts about some of the spoilery content that is out there. So see you back at the table. So that was Cuphead, fast-rolling dice game, kind of in a nutshell. Kind of went a little long on my explanation, but that's okay. So my thoughts on the game. Now, for what it is, it's actually just a silly little kind of a dice rolling game that's kind of got a little bit of stuff going on. You know, you got to frantically roll the dice and match them up to try to defend the attacks coming your way. And it's that frenzy that's really, really, really quite fun in the heart of the game, because if you're familiar with the Cuphead IP, it started off as a video game, and the video game was notoriously, or actually is notoriously, very difficult. We are currently playing through it on the Nintendo Switch, and man, oh man, we've sunk so many hours into it already, and we only just got past World 2. And I gotta believe, I think we've got to be playing the game for about 20 plus hours already at this point. So, and it is very, very difficult. And this game does capture the feeling of kind of playing the video game. In the very beginning of this game, it is actually really quite tough to match their dice in that allotted time frame. Now, we are been playing on kind of like an easier setting. Like I said, I've been playing with my 6-year-old son, and to kind of get him into the mood of this game, we did play with a timer. We didn't just say, oh, we just roll the dice until we match things. We played with a 30-second timer rather than a 20-second timer, which kind of helped him kind of get the grasp of how things were going. And then we progressed to the 20-second timer, which now is really quite funny. And I still can't match all my dice 100% of the time with the 20 seconds. It is still quite difficult. You do perish sometimes. Getting past phase 1 is usually pretty decently easy. And it's usually about that. It's usually in phase 2 that you start losing maybe a hit point or two, and then of course going into phase 3, you may only have 2 or 1 hit point left, and then you just take one more, and then you have to go back to the beginning, or you're hoping that one of your people that you're playing with has gained some parry tokens along the way, so that they can bring you back at least with a hit point, so that you can continue to keep participating in trying to defeat the boss. So it is quite fun in that regard. The solo game is actually really quite neat. You do have to focus on getting those parry tokens so that you can stay alive, because there's no one else at the table to help you bring you back alive. So and then you're playing through all the various bosses. I'm gonna mark at this point of the video that it's going to be a little bit spoilerish, kind of going forward, because this is kind of a campaign style type of game. Like, you are going to be playing through the bosses in succession. starting with boss number 1 and boss number 2 and boss number 3. So if you don't want to know which bosses are included in the game, this is your warning. I will kind of go over kind of things, because different boss decks do bring a little bit something different to the gameplay, and kind of because that very first one, the root pack that you play through, is very straightforward. There's no extra rules. Actually, all you're trying to do is match the dice and beat up the boss. Later on, there are going to be some of these different bosses that actually change the rules to the gameplay a little bit, and it does make things a little bit more difficult at times. And I'm also going to go over some of the weapons that you can unlock. Now, if you are familiar with the Cuphead video game, a lot of these things that you're going to unlock are a lot of the items and the charms that you can buy in the video game. So the names of them, but their effects are accustomed to this game. So there's your spoiler. There's enough. So let's get right into it. I really do appreciate that there are the 8 boss decks that you're going to play through, and that each boss deck does feel a little bit different, and you are playing a slightly different game every time. Before I get onto that, I really like the way that things unlock in this game. At the end of a boss deck, after you flip over the King Dice card and it says that you got a knockout, you get 4 coins. If it's the first time that you beat the boss. If you beat the boss the first time, you get 4 coins. And you also get a few. Sometimes you get a lot of items, and sometimes you don't get a lot of items after you've knocked out the boss. But then those items you can purchase, and then you can equip to your character in between different boss battles. So some of the things that we came across that we found very and so here's kind of a little bit thing too. We found, especially my son, we found that some items and charms, some weapons and charms were way better than some of the other ones. One of the first things that we bought in the game was the charm, the smoke bomb. And the smoke bomb was really, really quite handy, because it essentially allows you once per round, not once per phase, but once per round, 1 20-second round, 1 15-second round, or anything like that, you can place a diamond as a wild card. You can place a 1 diamond, and it can be anything you want. So essentially, it allows you to have a little bit of extra flexibility, especially in those earlier boss battles. Really, we found it really handy, and actually, we found ourselves using this charm in most of the boss decks. If we're finding that we were having a little particularly difficult time, we just re-equipped the smoke bomb, and yeah, it just helped us out a little bit. A couple things that some of the boss decks will do is that they'll announce that it's that's an airplane flying level, which is something that you see in the video game, which is really quite neat. That's how they incorporate it here. And in those airplane flying levels, they tell you that you can only use airplane weapons. And so at the beginning of the very first one that you ever unlock, you'll get the I believe you get the airplane pea shooter, and it has just a little bit of extra ability just to help you deal some damage. And then in the next airplane level, you get another item. You get the you get the mini bomb, and they kind of do very complementary type of things. The pea shooter allows you to deal extra damage if you have not assigned any more finger shooting icons for the rest of the attack. So if you place this down in the first slot, it's worth a lot of damage as long as you don't place any more finger gun shooting icons for the rest of the round. And then the mini bomb is the other way around, where it is going to deal extra damage for the more shooting action icons that you have assigned in that particular round. So kind of like pick your style. Do you want to try to get a lot of shooting icons? Do you not want to try to get a lot of shooting icons? Flip side, you got to make sure you assign it really early if you want to do lots of damage. Another charm that we came across that we really, really enjoyed that we found was that you can start the round with 4 health. So you get to kind of just get the heart. You get to start the round with 4 health, but you can only ever refill back up to 3 if you actually gain health. And on the flip side, though, because if you remember in the video game, if you got the extra hit points, you got a little bit weaker. Your weapons didn't do as much damage. So they say that the very first attack that you do in a round does no damage if you start off with that one. So your weapons are a little bit weaker. It's the weapons that we found extremely. They do play quite a bit differently. Some assign a lot more damage than others, and some are a little bit more strategic, or some of them allow you a little bit more flexibility, which we really enjoyed. For the charms, not so much, but with the weapons, my goodness gracious, there was a different weapon, and we really saw, especially towards the later bosses, picking the right weapon helps you out extremely. One of our favorite boss decks, is, I'm just going to grab it over here, is boss deck number 7. Boss deck number 7. This is the King Dice boss deck. And he comes with a whole schwackload of little minions, different phases. And this one actually has a little bit of quite a bit of randomness to it. It's kind of like now if you play the video game and you get to the King Dice level, you roll the dice and then there's little track moves forward and it determines which boss you fight. Same thing happens here. You have to roll a dice. There's a little bit of a track that you kind of move this little pawn on, and it determines which boss you're going to end up fighting. So you can actually it could be actually a very long scenario, because if you roll lots of 1s and 2s, it's not going to progress really far. You're going to fight lots of people. But if you roll lots of 4, 5s, and 6s, the fight's not going to be as long. And that every single mini boss in this one only has every phase only has 6 cards, so you only have 2 rounds to defeat the boss, each one, or else you get a time token. So it's actually very difficult to do. But if you have certain weapons, man, they go by really. They can be taken out really quite easily. And I can honestly say, even though it's probably one of the more challenging decks, but this is the only deck that we've actually gotten an A+ score on, playing on the 20 seconds, the 20-second time frame, just because of a certain combination of charm and weapon for that one. It was really interesting. And then, of course, you'll know that the very last boss deck is the Devil. And so boss deck number 8 is the very final boss of the game. No surprises there that it should be the Devil. And his scenario is very interesting because you have to lay out the attack cards, so you start the timer, lay out the attack cards, and as soon as the timer's done, you have to flip the cards face down, and then you have to play the round. So you kind of have to have a little bit of a memory aspect, because you have to kind of remember which dice are going to go into which slots. And it's very frantic. It brings something brand new to the table. Really quite cool. So boss decks 7 and 8 really change up the really core gameplay aspects and really get a really unique experience. So we are at the level now that we've passed all the boss decks. We've unlocked all of the items. And so now what our goal is, and kind of like what you do in the video game too, is you kind of try to go back to the earlier bosses and try to find a good combination of charm and weapon to try to get a better score. Our goal is we're trying to get an A- and better score across all of the different bosses. So that's just something and like you said, each round is only 20 seconds long. A boss fight in total from the very first start to the very final knockout is only going to play out in about 15, maybe 20 minutes. So it is when they say it's the fast rolling dice game, they are actually really bang on that. This is a fast playing game. You're going to get multiple plays of this really quite quickly. You can actually make an evening of it, try to tackle a couple boss decks along the way, or if you want to if you just want something quick and simple to play through a boss right before, say gamers are coming over for game night, or you just need that one little thing just before the kids go to bed, or you just want to get a quick game in before anything else. it's got you covered. It's only going to be 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how long the boss deck goes or how much conversation you're maybe going to have between phases, which is kind of something that you can actually focus on too. You can talk about what you're going to be doing between phases. Should we focus on shooting? Should we just focus on defending? Remember what your abilities do, because that 20 seconds you can instantly forget. Oh, and so many times do I ever found that as I'm rolling the dice and I'm assigning them and I pick up my dice again to roll, but I'm like, oh wait, I needed one of those icons and now I can't remember them, so now I have to roll the dice again. Okay, so that's kind of like my experiences with Cuphead, the fast rolling dice game. Who am I recommending this game for? Now, it's a tricky way because it is a family weight game. And now on the box it says ages 12 plus, and I kind of get that because some of these cards have text on them, and you have to be able to read and understand the text. My son right now, he's 6. He can't quite fully read and comprehend fully yet, but he does understand. Hey, if you assign this at this time, it's going to do this. He does have that association, and younger children will have that association ability. They can't read the text on the card, but if you tell them what something does, like if I put only one finger shooting icon this round, it does 3 damage. They can understand that. So you can definitely play this. It says 12 plus. You can definitely play this with quite younger children. The solo play is fantastic. You can there's no difference other than how much health the bosses and each of the phases has based on the player count. So you can play this. It's the exact same gameplay at 1 player as it is at 4 players, just depending on how many people are going to end up perishing in the game. So it's bang on the box here. It does say 20 minutes, and I'm going to agree with that. 15-20 minutes tops for a particular boss deck. Some of the things that they've included in the game, that save sheet is really quite handy. I can see lots of people using it to track their plays. We didn't. I don't like using score pads and stuff like that on that games provide. I always just write them on a piece of paper or other things, but it is really quite handy to have and keep track of what scores you've gotten on certain bosses. The box is quite large. It does fit on a Kalex style shelf. It's going to fit on most bookshelves, but it is a larger game and it does go sideways. So depending on how you want to store it, you can store it vertically though, and nothing's going to fall out as long as it does provide you with a couple baggies and stuff like that. So storage is no issue. One thing I do want to complain about at this time, especially in Canada, is the price point of this game. Saw this at Amazing Stories in Saskatoon here just not too long ago, and it's carrying about a $65 to $70 price tag on it, and that's a little steep for the type of game that you're gonna get here. It is just a dice chucker and trying to match the symbols kind of game. So paying $65 to $70 for that kind of game, I do have a little bit of issue with. Now I understand probably why it's probably that high. There are tons of cards in this game, tons of components. The box is huge, lots of cardboard, lots of production that went on into this game, the custom dice. But you are going to deter a lot of people with this family style type of game with a price point in Canadian dollars. In Canada here, I'm not quite sure what the US equivalent is of that, but it is quite, I would say that would be one of my biggest deterrents on recommending this game is the dollar value. Now you are going to get a lot of games out of this, but yeah, the price point is one of my biggest issues. I did have a lot of fun, and my son and my wife had a lot of fun playing Cuphead, the fast-rolling dice game here. It's priceless on those memories, but yeah. So those have been my thoughts about the Cuphead fast-rolling dice game published by The Op, and thank you once again, The Op, for providing it as a review copy. if you enjoyed my video about this and my review and my overview, please like this video, comment what you liked, what you didn't like. Are you going to pick up a Cuphead fast rolling dice game? Are you going to try the Cuphead fast rolling dice game? And if you really enjoyed this type of content, please subscribe and click the notification button for when more videos are going to be coming out. So yes, once again, I've been Ryan from Mr. Rao's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and this was a particular review. And so, game on.